Doberman stopped so suddenly that the leash went slack in my hand. Rain clung to his black coat in trembling beads, and for a second the world felt paused. Traffic noise dulled, wind held still, even my breath caught halfway in. He wasn't staring at a threat. He was staring at something broken. Under the rusted stairs behind the old feed store, a German Shepherd puppy was pressed into the shadows, limbs tucked so tightly beneath his body it looked like he'd folded himself wrong. His ribs moved too fast. His eyes were enormous, reflecting the gray sky like shattered glass, already braced for impact that hadn't come yet. Every sound made him flinch. Every breath felt like permission he didn't believe he deserved. I knelt without thinking, cold soaking through my jeans, heart hammering with all the reasons this could go wrong. Big dog, terrified puppy, fear sharpens teeth, but my Doberman did something I had never taught him. He lowered himself into the mud, chest flat, head down, making himself smaller. No growl, no dominance, just stillness. The puppy shook anyway. That was when I understood this wasn't about rescue yet. It was about whether fear could be taught something new. The puppy did not cry. That was the first thing that made him impossible to ignore. He was wedged beneath the rusted staircase, like something forgotten on purpose, his small body folded inward, paws tucked tight beneath his chest as if he were trying to protect what little warmth he had left. Rain slid off the metal steps above him in slow, uneven drops, landing near his ears, near his spine, close enough to make him flinch, but never close enough to wash him clean. He had learned stillness the way other puppies learned play. His breathing was shallow, careful, practiced. Each inhale seemed measured against the risk of being heard. His ribs moved too fast for a body so young, skin pulling tight over bone, fur clumped with dried mud and the faint metallic scent of old blood. One ear lay flat against his head while the other twitched at every sound. The scrape of a passing car tire, the distant slam of a door, the wind pushing loose paper across wet concrete. He watched everything without moving, eyes wide and dark, reflecting the gray sky like a warning. Fear lived in him like a second heartbeat. It dictated the shape of his body, the angle of his neck, the way his tail stayed curled tight against his belly as if even it had learned not to take up space. He was not hiding in the way animals hide to play or hunt. He was hiding the way something hides when it expects pain to arrive eventually, and wants to be smaller when it does. He had not always been here. The puppy remembered that much in fragments. A different ground once, softer maybe. The echo of voices, loud and unpredictable. Hands that moved too fast. Hunger that came and went without pattern. He did not remember kindness clearly enough to trust it, but he remembered enough harm to prepare for it every second. Memory was not a story in his mind. It was a reflex. When the large, dark shape appeared at the edge of his vision, his body reacted before his thoughts could. Muscles locked, breath stalled, his heart slammed so hard it hurt. Big meant dangerous, big meant teeth, weight, power. He pressed himself harder into the shadows, nails scraping faintly against concrete as if trying to dig through it. His eyes never left the shape. The big dog did not rush him. That confused the puppy more than aggression would have. The shape stopped, stayed still. The world held, suspended, rain whispering around them. The puppy waited for the lunge that didn't come. His body shook anyway, fear spilling out in tiny tremors he could not control. Then something stranger happened. The big dog lowered himself, slowly, carefully. His chest touched the wet ground, his head dipping, his posture softening in a way the puppy had never seen from something so large. No teeth, no growl, no forward motion, just presence. The puppy's fear did not disappear. It sharpened. Stillness could be a trick. Quiet could mean waiting. He stayed frozen, eyes burning, muscles screaming with the urge to run even though there was nowhere to go. The staircase pressed cold against his back. Escape was an idea, not an option. Rain began to fall harder, drumming against metal and concrete, filling the space with noise. Water crept closer to the puppy's paws, cold seeping into his skin. He lifted one paw instinctively, then froze again, terrified of the movement he had made. The big dog did not react. Minutes passed, or seconds. Time stretched thin in the space between them. The puppy's breathing slowed just enough for him to notice it. His chest still hurt, but the immediate threat had not arrived. Confusion crept in where panic had been. He tilted his head a fraction, barely enough to feel, testing the world. The big dog looked away. That was the moment something shifted. The puppy had learned that eyes meant attention, and attention meant danger, but this dog turned his head, exposing his neck, his gaze drifting elsewhere, as if the puppy were not something to be claimed or challenged. It was an unfamiliar kind of power, one that did not demand. The puppy's tail loosened by a single inch. It was not trust, it was not hope, it was a pause, a crack in the wall fear had built around his small body. He did not move forward, he did not relax, but for the first time in longer than he could remember, he did not retreat further into himself. Rain washed the air clean, the feed store loomed silent, the world did not end. The puppy stayed where he was, heart still racing, body still coiled, but something inside him had registered a new possibility. That not every large shape brought pain, that stillness could mean safety, that fear maybe did not always have to decide everything. He remained beneath the stairs, wet and shaking and alive, breathing in shallow, careful pulls, and for the first time the shape of his fear shifted, just enough to let something else exist beside it. Morning arrived without ceremony. No sun broke through the clouds. No warmth followed the night. The puppy woke beneath the staircase the same way he always did, already alert, already braced, his body stiff before his eyes fully opened. Cold had settled deep into his bones, the kind that lingered even when he stopped shaking. Water pooled near his paws, carrying the smells of rust, oil and old rain. Hunger gnawed at him, dull but constant, like a quiet ache he had learned to live with. He listened before he moved. Sound came first, then sight, the distant hum of traffic, a door slamming far away, footsteps somewhere nearby that made his heart jump before fading again. When the world seemed temporarily survivable, he shifted his weight, slowly uncurling his limbs. Each movement felt dangerous, like announcing his presence to something unseen. The big dog was still there. The puppy froze again, fear spiking sharp and immediate. The dark shape lay a short distance away, stretched out on the wet ground as if he had never left. The puppy searched him for signs of threat, stiffness, raised hackles, the tension he recognized too well. He found none. The dog's chest rose and fell in deep, steady rhythms, breath slow, untroubled. He looked like someone sleeping without fear of being hurt. The puppy did not understand that kind of sleep. His stomach tightened, hunger pushed against caution. He lowered his head, nose twitching. A faint scent reached him, then food, something dry and bland but unmistakably edible. It sat a few steps away, placed where the rain could reach it, where he would have to leave the safety of shadow to get it. His muscles trembled with indecision. He remembered He remembered food appearing suddenly, followed by hands, followed by pain. His body remembered even if his mind refused to replay the images clearly. He stayed still, breathing shallow, eyes flicking between the food and the sleeping dog. Minutes passed. Hunger did not fade. The puppy took one step forward. The sound of his paw touching concrete felt impossibly loud. He froze, heart pounding, waiting for consequences. None came. The big dog did not move. The world did not collapse. The puppy took another step, then another, each one slow and deliberate, his body low to the ground as if apologizing for existing. Rain tapped softly against metal. Wind pushed damp air through the narrow space. The puppy reached the food and stopped again, nose hovering just above it. He waited for the punishment that always followed, wanting something. His ears flattened, his tail stayed tucked. He ate quickly, desperately, swallowing without tasting, eyes never leaving the larger dog. The big dog stirred then, lifting his head just slightly. The puppy flinched so hard his paws slipped, nails scraping against the ground. He backed away from the bowl, body shaking, ready to bolt even though his stomach still ached with hunger. The big dog did not approach. He simply looked, then turned his head away again, resting his chin back on the ground. The puppy stared, confused, breath ragged. Slowly, cautiously, he returned to the food and finished it. That was how the days began to change. The puppy did not suddenly become brave. He did not stop hiding. But patterns formed, and patterns felt safer than chaos. Each morning, food appeared. Each morning the big dog lay nearby, calm and unthreatening. The puppy learned the rhythm of it, the timing, the distance, the silence. His body stopped shaking quite as much. He began to notice things he had been too afraid to before. The way sunlight filtered through gaps in the clouds, softening the hard edges of the world. The way rain smelled different when it was about to the way the big dog's ears twitched at sounds without panic, registering them, and letting them go. Sometimes the puppy caught himself watching instead of hiding. He learned that the big dog drank water openly, head down, back turned, trusting the space behind him. He learned that the dog lay on his side sometimes, exposing his belly to the open air. These things meant vulnerability. The puppy did not have words for it, but his instincts understood. Nothing that expected attack would do that. Still, fear fought to keep its place. One afternoon, a loud noise shattered the quiet, a metal door slamming, voices raised nearby. The puppy bolted back beneath the stairs, heart racing, breath coming in sharp bursts. He pressed himself into the corner, shaking so hard his teeth clicked together. The old terror surged back, heavy and familiar. The big dog followed only partway, stopping at the edge of shadow. He lay down again, placing himself between the puppy and the noise. He did not look back. He did not force closeness. He simply The puppy watched from the darkness, fear battling something new inside him. The noise faded. The world settled. The big dog did not leave. That night, for the first time, the puppy slept without curling fully into himself. His body still touched the ground, still ready to spring away, but his legs stretched just a little. His breathing slowed. Hunger slept quietly in his belly. Fear was still there, but it was no longer alone. And somewhere beneath the rusted staircase, in the damp and shadowed space where survival had once been the only goal, the puppy began learning something fragile and unfamiliar: how not to run. Trust did not arrive in the puppy's life like a moment. It came as repetition, as the same quiet morning unfolding again and again until the edges of fear softened, not because danger disappeared, but because nothing bad followed the waiting. The puppy began to recognize time not by light or hunger but by rhythm. Food appeared, silence held, the big dog stayed. He still woke tense, muscles tight, heart already racing before his eyes opened. But the panic no longer exploded instantly. It hovered instead, watchful, uncertain. The world had not yet proven itself safe, but it had paused its cruelty long enough to become predictable. The puppy learned predictability the way others learned language. He learned that footsteps passed the feed store at certain hours and never stopped. He learned that cars sounded different when they were slowing versus when they were simply passing by. He learned that the big dog always lay down before eating, always waited, always turned his head away first. These details mattered. They stitched a fragile sense of order into a life that had known only chaos. The puppy began spending more time outside the shadows, not much, just enough to feel the cool air on his back, to let his fur dry instead of clinging wet against his skin. He kept close to the staircase, always with an escape in mind, but his body no longer pressed flat to the ground every second. Sometimes he sat. Sitting felt strange, exposed, vulnerable. He tried it anyway. The big dog noticed but did not react. That too mattered. Attention had always meant danger before. Now, attention was quiet, distant, optional. The puppy found himself glancing at the dog more often, studying the way his chest rose and fell, slow and deep. He wondered how it was possible to breathe like that without fear clawing at the lungs. At night, the puppy dreamed. The dreams were not clear stories. They were sensations: running without moving, falling without landing, waking with his heart pounding, and his mouth dry, convinced something terrible was about to happen. But each time he woke, the big dog was still there. The space remained unchanged. No hands reached for him. No shouting filled the air. The dreams began to loosen their grip. One afternoon, rain gave way to thin sunlight, pale and uncertain. The concrete warmed slightly beneath the puppy's paws. He stepped farther out than ever before, his body trembling with the effort. The open space felt enormous, dangerous, full of invisible threats. He froze halfway, unsure whether to continue or retreat. The big dog lay nearby, head resting on his paws, eyes half closed. He looked peaceful in a way the puppy could not yet imagine being. Something inside the puppy shifted then, a quiet curiosity pushing against fear. He took another step. Nothing happened. The world did not punish him for existing in the open. The puppy stood there, heart racing, breath shallow, but upright. For the first time his tail loosened fully from its tight curl. It did not wag. It simply hung there unguarded. The puppy realized then that trust was not a leap. It was a series of pauses, where nothing bad occurred. Days continued to pass. The feed store became familiar. The rusted staircase became less of a shelter and more of a place to retreat when needed. The puppy began to stretch when he woke, front legs extending forward, back arching slightly. It felt dangerous to do so, but it also felt good. His body remembered what it meant to take up space. Fear pushed back when it could. A stranger walked too close one morning, footsteps echoing sharply. The puppy bolted instantly, panic flooding his system. He retreated into shadow, shaking, breath ragged, every muscle screaming. The old terror surged, furious at being challenged. The big dog did not chase him. He moved closer to the puppy's hiding place, then lay down, his back to the open world, forming a quiet barrier. He stayed there, unmoving, until the puppy's breathing slowed. The puppy watched through the darkness, heart still hammering. He did not understand why the dog stayed. He only knew that he did. That night, the puppy slept longer than usual. His dreams were still restless, but they no longer ended in the same violent jolt of terror. He woke with his head resting on his paws, instead of tucked beneath his chin. His ears twitched, listening, but his eyes stayed closed a few seconds longer than before. He was learning rest. One evening something extraordinary happened. The puppy lay near the big dog, closer than he ever had, not touching, just near, close enough to feel the warmth of another body, close enough to hear the steady rhythm of breathing that did not change. The puppy's muscles tensed, waiting for the moment it would turn wrong. It didn't. His body relaxed inch by inch, tension draining slowly, cautiously. His breathing matched the rhythm beside him without conscious effort. The world felt quieter here, held together by stillness. Fear remained, curled tight inside him like a scar that never fully fades, but it no longer controlled every movement. It shared space now with something fragile and new. Trust, the puppy learned, was not loud. It did not announce itself or demand recognition. It arrived quietly, unnoticed at first, in the spaces where fear loosened its grip just enough to let the body breathe. Beneath the open sky, beside a presence that asked for nothing, the puppy slept. And for the first time in his short, painful life, sleep felt like permission. Fear returned without warning, the way storms do when the sky looks calm. The puppy had been standing in the open, paws planted on familiar ground, breathing in the ordinary smells of wet concrete and rust, when a sharp sound cracked the air. It was sudden and loud, metal striking metal, close enough to feel like a threat. His body reacted instantly. Muscles seized, heart slammed, thought disappeared. He ran. Panic took over his limbs, driving him back beneath the staircase, into the tight space where shadows pressed close and memory felt sharper. His nails scraped the ground as he tried to make himself smaller, shaking so hard his breath came out in broken bursts. The weeks of quiet progress collapsed inward, fear flooding back with cruel force, reminding him how quickly safety could vanish. The world narrowed to sound and sensation. Every echo felt dangerous, every vibration felt like an approaching hand. His ears flattened, his tail curled tight,
his body folding into the posture it had learned long before shelter existed. Shame crept in with the fear, the instinctive belief that he had failed somehow by hope. The big dog moved, but not fast. The puppy noticed only because movement always meant danger. He watched through trembling vision, as the dog positioned himself between the staircase and the open space, lying down with deliberate calm. The noise faded, voices passed. Nothing followed. Still the puppy could not stop shaking. Fear argued loudly inside him, telling him this was proof, telling him he had been wrong to relax, wrong to believe. Stillness meant safety. His breathing stayed fast, chest tight, body locked. He waited for the pain that usually followed mistakes like trusting. It did not come. Minutes stretched thin. The puppy's breath slowed in uneven steps, each exhale a small victory against panic. He watched the big dog carefully, searching for signs of change. There were none. The posture remained loose. The presence remained steady. Confusion crept in, where terror had ruled. The puppy shifted slightly, testing movement without bolting. His paws stayed beneath him, ready, but the urge to flee dulled. The world felt sharp, but no longer collapsing. Fear did not disappear. It circled, angry and stubborn, demanding control, but something else held ground now. Something stronger than panic. Memory of quiet mornings, memory of food without pain, memory of sleep that did not end in violence. The puppy stayed beneath the staircase until night fell. When darkness softened the edges of the world, he inched closer to the open space again, body low, heart still racing. He did not approach the big dog, he simply existed near him. That night fear lost its grip slightly, not because it was defeated, but because it was no longer alone inside the puppy's body. The first night away from the feed store felt unreal. The puppy's body did not understand walls, or quiet that did not echo with danger. The floor beneath him was smooth and warm, unfamiliar in every way, and the air smelled clean instead of sharp. He stood frozen just inside the doorway, legs locked, breath shallow, eyes aims for threats that had not yet revealed themselves. Fear told him this place was temporary. Fear always did. He stayed near the edge, where escape felt possible. His body trembled with exhaustion, but he refused to lie down. Lying down meant vulnerability, and vulnerability had always come at a cost. He watched shadows shift across the walls, as lights changed, his ears twitching at every sound, every creak, every breath that was not his own. The big dog lay nearby, calm as ever, stretched across the floor as if the space belonged to him. The puppy watched closely, measuring reaction. The dog slept, woke, slept again. Nothing happened. Hours passed. Slowly, the puppy's muscles began to ache. Fatigue pressed heavy against fear, demanding rest. He lowered himself cautiously, joints stiff, body tense, ready to spring up at the first sign of danger. The floor was warmer than concrete. The quiet was deep, not hollow. His breathing slowed despite his efforts to keep it sharp. Sleep came in pieces. He dreamed of running, of falling, of waking too late. Each time he startled awake, the room remained unchanged. No shouting, no pain, just quiet, steady and patient. The puppy's body began to loosen, tension draining inch by inch, as if unsure whether it was allowed to rest. Morning arrived softly. Light spilled across the floor, gentle and pale. The puppy lifted his head, surprised to find himself still alive, still safe. His tail did not curl as tightly. His ears stayed relaxed longer. He stood and stretched without realizing it, back arching, muscles lengthening, space claimed without fear. Days passed like this, slow and careful. The puppy learned the sounds of the new place, the rhythm of voices, the way silence could exist without threat. He learned that food came consistently, that hands moved slowly, that the big dog remained his constant shadow, guiding without force. One afternoon, the puppy did something extraordinary. He rested his head against the big dog's side, just for a moment, just long enough to feel warmth and steady breath beneath his cheek. His heart raced, fear screaming, but he did not pull away. Nothing bad happened. That moment stayed with him. It rewrote something deep and old. The puppy began to take up space. Little by little, his steps grew lighter, his eyes softened, his breathing slowed. Fear still lived inside him, but it no longer shaped his entire body. Safety had found a place beside it. That night the puppy slept fully, stretched out, breathing deep and even, finally at rest in a world that no longer asked him to disappear.